Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Guru Medeva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Bhatvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murteye Namaha Om Shri Medha Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaste everyone.
Namaste Guruji.
Namaskaram Guruji.
So,
Namaste Guruji. Pranam.
Namaste. Let me all wish you in advance a happy Ganesh Chaturthi.
Thank you very much. Same to you too.
I may forget.
Wish you the same. आपको और सभी को भी.
May Lord Ganesha remove all the obstacles which may come in your way of your spiritual pursuit. So let us all pray to Lord Ganesha for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So we are seeing the 35th sloka. Asti kaschit swayam nityam aham pratyaya lambanaha avastha traya sakshi san panchakosha vilakshanaha. So as I was saying, after answering the question, what is anatma, the Acharya has now started his response to the student's question, Paramaha kaha atma. What is Paramatma? And in the previous sloka, we saw the Acharya commencing the discussion on this topic by saying, I will teach you the nature of that Paramatma, the limitless self, knowing which one is freed from the bondage of samsara and gains oneness with Ishvara. And in this sloka, talking about Paramatma, he says in a cryptic manner that there is one who is self-existent. He is manifest all the time in the I thought, being distinct from the fivefold koshas. Koshas means coverings. We will see what is kosha. He is the witness of the three states of experience. What he is implying here is that we have talked about three sharirams or bodies, but there is a fourth factor, which is a very important factor, but which unfortunately is ignored. And it is the most important factor because the three sharirams are sentient and function as a living being only because of that fourth factor which pervades the three sharirams and enlivens them. And this fourth factor is available throughout our life. It is always there. And perhaps because of that, we don't appreciate it, we take it for granted. And that fourth factor is called Atma, which means consciousness. Vedanta study for that matter, in the initial stages, uses two terms, Jivatma and Paramatma, as though they are two different entities. The word Jivatma is used to denote the consciousness limited by the body, mind, sense complex. And by the word Paramatma, we refer to the God principle. In reality, there is only one Atma. But due to the difference in the perception, we actually refer it to as Jivatma, Paramatma, as two different entities. And this only Atma, the one and only Atma, is transcendental consciousness which manifests in the body as empirical consciousness. And this consciousness is ever available but ever ignored. This ever available, ever ignored consciousness principle is what is called Atma. And whenever I use the word I, in the meaning of the word I, like I am, in that I, you have to include the Atma also. Unfortunately, what we do, whenever we are referring to oneself as I, we include the Stula Shariram, which is nothing but a temporary costume. Okay, we then include the mind also in that I. So when the mind is emotional, we say I am emotional. But Sukshma Shariram, of which mind is a part, is also a temporary costume. Therefore, we use the word I for all the temporary costumes like the body, mind, etc. But we don't include the consciousness in the meaning of the word I. And Vedanta says that the word I, aham, in Sanskrit, should primarily mean consciousness, because that is the only non-variable principle. Everything else is variable. This body is variable, mind is variable. But when you look at our conversations, our expressions, somewhere at the back of that mind, we recognize this non-variability of this I. And the only non-variable principle is consciousness. So, logically, we should be, whenever we say I, we should be referring to the consciousness only. At the age of 5, when I said I was referring to consciousness principle. At the age of 10, when I said I, or 20 when I said I, or 30 when I said I, at all these ages, 10, 20, 30, 40, etc., my body underwent a change, my mind underwent a change, my stula sukshma sharirams were changing. But the expression I did not change. At 5 also I said I, 10 also I said I, 20 also I said I. What does that mean? It means that I remained non-variable. And what is non-variable is consciousness. Therefore, somewhere without our realizing, without being aware of it, whenever we say I, we think we are referring to body, mind, sense complex, but in reality, we are referring to the non-variable consciousness only, which is its primary meaning of the word I. A body gets replaced every cells in our body. Every I don't know, somewhere I have read, every 3 days the entire cells get replaced. It is not the same cell I have got which I had 3 days ago. Maybe the number of days may be different, I'm not very sure. But the fact of the matter is, every cell of the body gets replaced. Millions of cells we shed every day, we add millions of cells also, new one. Cell depletion, cell addition is a constant process. Therefore, today I am not the same body which I was yesterday. It keeps on changing on a daily basis. Similarly, the mind is also constantly varying. Still, we use the word I for all this changing, variable body, mind, etc. And unfortunately, due to our ignorance, the non-variable I, the ever-available consciousness principle, we ignore. Shankaracharya puts it very beautifully in Dakshinamurti Stotra. Balyadeshvapi jagradadeshu tatha sarvasvavastasvapi vyavrittasvanuvartamanamahamityanta spurantam sada. Spurantam sada, always shining. In and through everything, consciousness is always shining. So Vedanta is a training ground in which I identify with this consciousness and I practice claiming I am that Atma. I switch over from claiming that I am the body, I am the mind sense complex to I am the Atma. It is a long project, a lifelong project. By just repeating in 5-10 times, you are not going to change your orientation. It has been there birth after birth after birth. We don't know, maybe crores of births. And suddenly in one birth, you want to change that, what you have been believing yourself to be or taking yourself to be. It's not going to happen that easily. And Shankaracharya introduced this lifelong project with the words in Mandukya Upanishad. Sa Atma sa Vigneyaha. Therefore, he says, Asti Kaschit Swayam Nityam. Swayam means the self, the core self, which is Swayam Siddha, self-effulgent, that which is always evident in the form of self-awareness. The consciousness principle is Swayam Prakasha, Swayam Siddha. Kaschit Asti. Kaschit means something. Kaschit Asti. There is something called the core self. He says something because we have ignored that. If you tell somebody you are the Atma, they will not believe. You say, what are you talking? So Shankaracharya has to introduce that as though it is a new thing. As I said, we saw the example of the hand, earlier also a couple of classes ago, previous classes also. When I told you all, other than the hand, there is one more thing, a principle called light, because of which you are able to know the hand or see the hand. Even though you know you have been, because of the light only you have been seeing the hand. But when I asked the question, what are you seeing? Nobody answered that I am seeing two things, hand and light. Everybody said I'm seeing hand, or somebody said finger, somebody said lines on the hand, etc. It was very obvious. The light is always there. It was very obvious. So we take it as granted and we don't even recognize it. Therefore, I have to introduce light as something new. as if it's a new knowledge that I am giving you. Even though you are aware of it, you are experiencing it all the time. So I say there is something called light, which is not part of the hand, a product or property of the hand. Light is an independently existent principle which pervades the hand and makes the hand visible. And the light extends beyond the hand. Light will continue even when I remove the hand. But the continuing light without the hand, though it is there, we can't notice it, since it requires a medium for perceiving it. And in our example, the hand was the medium. Now, whatever I have told you about the light, just replace the word light with consciousness. That's all. That is what Adi Shankara is saying here. There is something called consciousness, which is not part of the body. It is not product of the body or property of the body. Consciousness is independently existent principle which pervades the body and makes the body, mind, sense complex visible. Consciousness extends beyond the body. Consciousness will continue even when the body is no longer there. But the continuing consciousness without the body, though it is there, we can't notice it, we can't transact with it, since it requires a medium for perceiving it, and that medium is the body mind sense complex. So the hand light example is very useful in understanding what that consciousness is. So like I have to introduce the light which you are experiencing all the time and talk a lot about it. Whenever we are looking at anything, we are only talking about the object we are perceiving, not the light which falls on that object, which enables us to perceive that object. We always ignore that light. Therefore, shifting the attention from the hand to light or from the body, mind, sense complex to consciousness is the new teaching. So I learned to shift the attention from the body, the mind, the intellect, emotions, worry, etc., to the non-variable consciousness principle, because of which alone all these become relevant. So Swayam Nama Kaschit Asti. So here we said Kaschit means something. That something is what? Chaitanya Atma, the consciousness principle. And what type of consciousness it is? Shankaracharya does not use the word consciousness here. He is only going to use it later in the 38th verse. But here we can understand, here Kaschit is referring to Chaitanya Atma. And that consciousness does not die even when the brain dies. So he says that this Chaitanya Atma is available Nityam, always self-evident. It is ever available as what? Aham pratyaya lambanaha. The word lambanaha means vishayaha, arthaha, meaning of the word. So which is the meaning of the word I, aham, which is the real meaning of the word I. Body is just a costume for transactional purposes. That much we must understand. Of course, to avoid confusion and all that, while talking to the people, you can say, I am the body, I am old, I am young, etc. No problem with that. But you must always remember in your mind, the real meaning is, whenever I say I, the real meaning is aham pratyaya arthaha. Pratyaya means thought or self-awareness. So the meaning of the self-awareness or meaning of the word self or I is this Atma alone. And now question is, what is the job of this Atma? You say it is all pervading, ever available, Nityam, etc. What is its job? Because the empirical I, the Jivatma, the empirical consciousness in the body has got functions. It does function when it is part of the body, as though it is part of the body, though not an integral part of the body. Though it is pervading the body, consciousness does several functions along with the body. Isn't it? I mean, take the electricity example. Another very good example with which we can understand what do we mean by empirical I, empirical consciousness. Electricity is available everywhere. It is all pervading. We have got so many gadgets. There is a light, there is a fan, there is a television. All these function, like for example, the bulb lightens up because of electricity. Without electricity, bulb is a inert thing, or it will not burn. So in that bulb, the electricity, as though part of the bulb, helps the bulb to perform its function. Similarly, fan, it rotates and gives air or circulates the air in the room. So electricity in the fan, along with the fan, helps the fan to do its function of rotating. Similarly, consciousness, along with the respective body functions, consciousness does several functions along with the body. So consciousness joins the team of the individual. So every individual becomes a team consisting of two players, Atma and Anatma. As Swami Paramahansa beautifully says, every living being is a mixed double team consisting of two members of different genders, like a double team. One member is Anatma, which is inert, Jadam. Another is Atma, which is sentient, Chetana. This Jada Shariram, the body is subject to modification or change, but the Chaitanya Atma is not subject to any change. The changeless consciousness and the changing Atma, Anatma, body, mind, sense complex, is a team called the individual, the I. And this individual, which is a team, does all the functions in life. It's a double team which does rather. Karta is a team, doer, I am a doer, it's a team. Bhokta, I am an enjoyer, is a team. Jnata, the knower, is a team. Anatma itself cannot be a knower or doer, mind you. Our intellect, our mind, all these are jadam, inert. They only because they become blessed by the consciousness, they gain the status of being a knower or the body parts. I mean, at least our karmendriyas gain the status of being karmendriyas. On their own, they cannot do anything. Similarly, consciousness also on its own, it cannot do anything. Now let us focus on the word knower, I said, right? So when you say, I am the knower, Anatma, the body, as I said, can never be the knower by itself because it is Jada. Atma also by itself can never become a knower Because Atma being changeless, it is not capable of any action or function. Any action, any knowledge involves a change. Even if I have to wave my hand, it's an action, a change is involved. When I have to know something, there is a change involved in my mind and intellect. So any function means action. Function requires activity or change. Therefore, pure consciousness cannot be a knower. Even though it is consciousness, it cannot be a knower by itself. And similarly, Anatma cannot be a knower by itself. But as a team together, they become the knower. So here, Atma is knower, which means Atma is a member of the knowing team. And that knower Atma, the member of the knowing team, is called Sakshi. And Anatma, as a member of the knowing team, is called Pramata. Thus, when you look at the Anatma as a knower, it is called Pramata. And when you look Atma as a knower, it is called Sakshi. So, Jnata Anatma Pramata Bhavati, Jnata Atma Sakshi Bhavati. But that doesn't mean, mind you, that there are two different entities, two different knowers. There are no two different knowers, but the two members of one knowing team. It is like talking about two parents. We don't have two parents. We have got only two members of one parental team. Mother cannot become a parent without the father, and father cannot become a parent without the mother. Both of them do not have independent parental status. Still, we call both of them parents. It is just an expression. Two parents means two members of a parental team. Similarly, when we talk about the knower, Anatma, knower Anatma and knower Atma, there are no two members. We must understand that, remember that. Pramata, the Anatma knower, is a changing knower. Atma is a non-changing knower. Or non-changing member of the knowing team. That will be a better expression. Therefore, Atma is given the title of Sakshi, which is the meaning. And what is the meaning of the word Sakshi? Nirvikara Jnata, non-changing knower. Witness, just witnessing. So this Sakshi Atma is knower of what? What is the object of the knowledge of this Sakshi Atma? He says, Avastha Traya Sakshi San. Atma is the knower of Avastha Trayam. What is Avastha Trayam? Avastha Trayam means three states of experience. Jagrad Avastha, Swapna Avastha and Sushupti Avastha. And according to Shastram, these three states are the attributes of the mind. We can say attributes of the Sukshma Shariram, or to be more specific, because Sukshma Shariram contains so many different parts, entities. We can say attributes of the mind, to be specific. When the mind is fully active and experiences the external universe, that fully active mind is called what? Jagrad Avastha. Waking state. When the mind is only partially active, based on the memory, experiencing an internal universe, then that partially active mind is called Swapna Avastha. And when that mind is totally resolved and passive, that state of mind is called Sushupti Avastha. And for this Avastha Trayam, the three states of experiences of the mind, Atma is the Sakshi, the witness, the knower. This word Avastatraya, Acharya will explain, elaborate in the next verse. Okay. Next he says Panchakosha Vilakshanaha. We have seen Sharira Trayam, right? Stula Sukshma Karana Sharira. This Panchakosha is another name for the Sharira Trayam. Sharira Trayam we have discussed at length. The same three bodies in the Shastra is presented as a Panchakosha or 5-layered body. It's the same thing only. Therefore, Panchakosha Vilakshanaha can be translated as Shariratraya Vilakshanaha. Means this Atma or consciousness is distinct from the three bodies. It is distinct from the 5 layers or 5 coverings. Kosha means covering. Cover we put, like car and all we cover, it's a kosha. So this consciousness is distinct from these 3 bodies, but it is in and through the bodies. It pervades the 3 bodies, but it is not a part of the 3 bodies. We have seen all this, but I just contextually I am repeating it. Do we know the 3 avasthas? We do know, clearly know. How do we know? We use 3 separate words, isn't it? We cannot use a word unless we know what it is. So I am the experiencer of the 3 states. I am the knower of the 3 states. And when I say I am the knower, there is a changing member knower and there is a non-changing member. When I say I am the knower, I am referring to a team, doubles team, which is becoming a knower. So I am the changeless consciousness who am aware of the 3 states of experiences. I am the knower or witness of Avastatrayam. Avastatraya Sakshi Sun. Sun means being. So being the Sakshi, the witness of these 3 states of experiences, and Panchakosha Vilakshanaha, different from all other members of the team. Who are the members? Anatma, which is Shariratrayam, Panchakosha, whatever way you want to refer to that Anatma. So I am Atma, different from Anatma. Anatma is Jadam. I am changeless witness consciousness called Atma. And this Anatma, as we have already discussed, is presented in the scriptures in 2 versions. I have briefly talked about it before also. In fact, Tattvabodha students will easily recall. We have discussed both Shariratrayam and Panchakosha in Tattvabodha. So in one version, Anatma is divided into 3 bodies. In another, it is divided into 5 layers. When you divide it into 3 bodies, it is called Shariratrayam. When divided into 5 layers, it is called Kosha Panchakam or Panchakosha. We have already discussed at length Shariratrayam from verse 27 to 33. We have not discussed the other division, Kosha Panchakam. We will be seeing that later, as I said, from 45 to 60. 16 verses. Shankaracharya himself will explain what are the Panchakoshas. Until we come to that, you can understand Panchakosha means Shariratrayam. Different way of presenting Shariratrayam is Panchakosha. Therefore, Panchakosha Vilakshana, I am different from the 3 bodies. I use the body, but I am not the body. I use the mind, but I am not the mind. Not only I use them, I am different from them. But whatever happens, the body, mind, sense complex does not affect me. As the light pervades the hand, but it never becomes dirty if the hand becomes dirty. Or suppose I separate the 5 fingers. Separation happens to the fingers, but the light itself doesn't get divided, isn't it? Light is there on the fingers also. Light is there in between the fingers also. It is invisible as though. Therefore, I, the Atma, am never affected by anything that happens to my 3 bodies. Because the body is subject to all kinds of issues. If the body is healthy, it's a great boon, it's a blessing. Because constantly there are so many diseases going around us. That's why Bhagavan has given us such a system in the body to keep it healthy, which is the immunity system. Constantly, even at this moment, so many bacteria, viruses are attacking us. But the body automatically, we don't even know that is happening. It is repelling all of them. They all try to find, just like the terrorists coming from across the border, some small hole through which they can enter and make the body unhealthy. Our system, the immune system, protects us from that. So, despite all the diseases and germs and whatnot surrounding us constantly, which we cannot see, the body is still healthy. And if the body becomes unhealthy or sick, it is a natural event and we cannot call it a problem. I can look objectively at the body only when I stand aloof. Once I identify with the body, every disease, every minor one becomes a serious problem. And that is our problem also. All our anxieties, worries, everything comes because, especially health problems, worry us because we are identifying ourselves with the body. A jnani is one who is able to stand aloof. When the body gets a disease, the first thing he says is the body is anatma, and he won't say it. He will tell it to himself rather. So body is anatma, subject to prarabdha karma. It is something is happening to my body means some prarabdha karma is getting exhausted. See how differently you can look at it. If there is a serious problem in the body, which is curable, even though during the time you are having the problem, you may suffer pain, discomfort, still you can look at it positively. Oh, very good. This is happening to me. That means in future, this prarabdha karma, this karma because of which is happening, it will be exhausted. I will no longer be troubled by that karma. Of course, that does not mean that, oh, it's all karma happening, so let the body suffer. We should not be like that. It does not mean that we should not treat the disease. Because while the body is suffering the karma, I still require the body for my transactions. It's a useful medium for transaction. So therefore, what I should do, even though karma is doing its job on the one side, I should try to keep the body healthy and reduce the harmful effect of the karma to the best extent possible. While fully understanding that ill health is intrinsic to the body. The good news is, if I disidentify with the body, the Atma, if I take myself as Atma, I will be ever unaffected. Asangosmi. And that asangatvam is indicated here by Panchakosha Vilakshanaha. Means what? Vilakshanaha means different from or rid of, you can say, Panchakosha or Anatma, different from Anatma. So here he has introduced this Panchakosha. Two things he has introduced, Avastatraya Sakshi and Panchakosha. So in the next words, Acharya elaborates on the word Avastatraya Sakshi. We will read the sloka. Yo vijanati sakalam jagrat swapna sushuptishu buddhi tadvritti sadbhavam abhavamahamityayam. Excuse me. The Anvaya of this sloka is Yaha aham iti jagra swapna sushuptishu buddhi tadvritti sadbhavam abhavam sakalam ayam vijanati. Yaha, he who, ahamiti, as I, jagrat swapna sushuptishu, in the waking, dream and sleep states of experiences, buddhi tadvritti sadbhavam, the presence of the mind and its thoughts, abhavam, and their absence, sakalam, all, I am, this is the Atma, vijanati, knows. So this is the Atma who, as I, knows all. The presence and absence of the mind and its thoughts in the waking, dream or sleep states of experience. So as I said in the previous sloka, every individual is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. Every transaction, both are involved. Pujya Swamiji says, everybody is a Mishra. People in India will know who is Mishra. Mishra is a surname found in many parts of India. Of course, in South we don't find it, but North, Bihar and all that, UP, Bihar, we find this surname Mishra. Mishra in Sanskrit means mixed. Mishram. So even though we do not recognize that, it is a mixture which is involved in all transactions. And what we are trying to do here of this mixture, we are trying to identify the Atma component of the mixture, because we cannot physically separate the Atma and show it. This is Atma, this is Anatma. We can't do that. Therefore, we have to intellectually segregate, cognitively segregate. It's a cognitive separation, which Shankaracharya is attempting in these two verses. So we have previous verse we have seen, Avastatraya Sakshi. Now here he is further exploring that. So all functions are done by this mixture alone. The very fundamental self-awareness belongs to this mixture only. As I said, pure Atma cannot do anything. Pure Atma cannot be self-aware also. For self-awareness, you require the mind, which is part of the Anatma. Because self-awareness is a kind of knowledge. It's a form of knowledge, result of a process. And even that process, the Atma cannot do it on its own. Similarly, Anatma also cannot have self-awareness by itself, because it is inert. Therefore, pure Atma cannot do anything, pure Anatma also cannot do anything. Therefore, the word I am is uttered by the mixture alone, Atma, Anatma mixture. It is such a beautiful concept. One needs to understand. In fact, the secret for all our problems in our life lies in this understanding of what exactly is the process. Whenever even as I'm speaking, what is the process going on? In fact, in the introduction to his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Adi Shankara writes what is called Adhyasa Bhashya. He starts that Adhyasa Bhashyam with this statement alone. What is Aham? Because that is the biggest problem. Our own understanding, our own definition of this word I or Aham is the biggest problem we face. And the whole Vedanta is trying to teach us what you should be your understanding of the word I, which you use. Therefore, all functions we do belong to the mixture. But here we are focusing on, because he has used the word Vijnata, right? Focusing on the knowing function. That's why I gave that introduction of the knowing function in the context of the previous sloka. Sakshi we saw. And as I said, knowing function is also a mixture only. Only the mixture is a knower. Atma, Anatma, mixture is a knower. Atma, you can say, is a passive contributor to every knowing activity. Passive means what? It's mere presence. By its mere presence, it makes consciousness available for every knowledge that takes place. Consciousness actually in the Shastra is considered to be the knower, knowledge. That's why Satchidananda in Taittiriya Upanishad, instead of Satchit Ananda, it uses the expression Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So Chit is consciousness is replaced by the word Jnanam, knowledge. So any knowing function, knowing happens by the Anatma, the mind generating a thought, a relevant thought, and Atma blessing that thought with consciousness. If I have to know a pot, the mind or Anatma has to contribute by entertaining the pot thought. If the pot thought is not there, consciousness by itself cannot give rise to pot knowledge. Consciousness can contribute only consciousness. Just like the fan example I gave you. If the electricity, if the fan has to run, on its own the fan cannot run. Electricity also, if you switch on this thing, unless it is connected to the fan, electricity itself cannot, become a fan. So we require both. Electricity is required, the gadget of fan is required, and when we switch it on, both combine together as a team and work. So this twofold contribution, that is consciousness plus thought in the mind, because of which the knowledge arises. That is the process by which the knowledge happens. And so we both together, we say knower. As I said in the scriptures also, Atma is also treated as a knower principle. The mind or the intellect is also treated as a knower principle. So knowerhood is shared by Atma and Anatma. So whenever we say Atma is a knower or Anatma is a knower, we must understand Atma in partnership with Anatma is the knower. This is to be understood even though it is not explicitly stated. I know, when you say, means I, who is a combination mixture of Atma, Anatma, is the knower. And in these words, Shankaracharya is defining Atma as the knower principle, passive knower, by contributing consciousness to every knowing act. So, this non-changing passive knower Atma is called Sakshi. Nirvikara Drashta, another definition of Sakshi is Nirvikara Drashta, the non-changing seer. Nirvikara Shrota, the non-changing hearer. And this is very well defined, very nicely defined in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one mantra. Adrushto drashta ashrutah shrotha amato mantha avignato vignata nanyotosti drashta nanyotosti shrotha nanyotosti mantha nanyotosti vignata yeshata atma antaryami amritah vignata. That Brihadaranyaka sloka is what Adi Shankara has picked up here to describe Atma as a knower, as a Vijnata. So Atma has got both statuses. Non-knower status on its own by itself, knower or passive knower status in conjunction with Anatma in the living being. And therefore he says, Yaha Vijanati Sakalam. Here Yaha means the Atma, passively knowing Atma without undergoing any change. Sakalam Vijanati, knows everything. First it knows and reveals Anatma. Anatma number one is what? Karana Shariram, because that is the first entry point for Atma. First Atma makes the Karana Shariram sentient. Then that sentiency is borrowed by the Sukshma Shariram from Karana Shariram. And then it passes on to the Stula Shariram. So the Atma first reveals the Karana Shariram. Along with that Karana Shariram, it knows the Sukshma Shariram. Then along with Sukshma Shariram, the consciousness illumines the Stula Shariram. And through the Stula Shariram, the consciousness illumines the entire universe. This is the process. And it all happens like this. It's not that each process takes time. Therefore, through Karana Sukshma Sula Sharirams, the Atma illumines the entire universe. Thus, one consciousness alone illumines everything. Yaha Vijanati, Atma knows. Because in the presence of an Atma can function as a knower of Sakalam, everything. Everything means what? Jagrat, Swapna, Sushuptishu, in all three avasthas. Atma illumines everything. That means Atma is present in all the three avasthas. And all the three avasthas cover our entire life. You are either awake or in dream or in sleep. There is no fourth state of experience. That's why, even when we go into a deep sleep state, the physical body is non-functioning. Mind and sense organs are resolved. You have seen all these things in Karana Sharira. Even though everything is resolved, even though entire world is resolved, Karana Shariram and the blankness is again revealed by the consciousness principle. When you say there is nothing in deep sleep state, it means there is nothing other than consciousness. When we say my mind went blank, it means the mind is nothing. That in the mind there was nothing other than consciousness. Because that consciousness has to be there or is there to eliminate the blankness of the mind also. Whether something is existing or something is non-existing, sadbhavam or abhavam, both are illumined, both are made known to us by the consciousness only. Therefore, consciousness never becomes absent, it is ever present. Even in pranayam, consciousness is present. So in Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti avasthas. Then he says, Buddhi tadvritti sadbhavam abhavam. So he said just now. It not only illumines the external world, it illumines the internal conditions also. As I said, in the waking state, mind is there. In the dream state, mind is there. In the presence of mind, I know. I know my mind. I know the thoughts rising in my mind. I know the knowledge rising in my mind. Emotions rising in my mind. Therefore, mind also I know. The thoughts also I know. All these I know. And who is that I who knows? Shankaracharya says it is the consciousness principle, which by its mere presence makes the mind known, thoughts also know. Therefore, buddhi tadvritti. Here, buddhi should be understood as antakarana. Mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, all four of them, not only intellect. Tadvritti, as well as the thoughts, whether it is knowledge, emotion, doubts, all kinds of vritti. Vritti means thoughts. Sadbhavam, their presence. Both mind and thoughts are present in Jagrat and Swapna Avastha. So, in Jagrat and Swapna, Buddhi tadvritti, sadbhavam. You have to connect it to Yah Vijanati, Atma Vijanati. Atma knows. In Jagrat Avastha and Swapna Avastha, the antakaranam and also the thoughts which are occurring there in the mind, Atma knows by its mere presence, by being a Sakshi. And when deep sleep state comes, the mind is resolved, the thoughts also resolve. Only Karna Shariram is there, which is a very passive state, dormant state, blank state, wherein the mind is also absent. There are no thoughts. Therefore, he says, abhavam, buddhi abhavam, tadvritti abhavam. That absence of the mind and thoughts also, yaha vijanati, atma vijanati, atma knows. And now, if you ask what is that atma, Shankaracharya says, aham iti ayam. Ayam as aham vijanati iti. We don't say Atma knows the sleep state. We say, I know the sleep state. I know that I had a good sleep without any disturbance. There were no thoughts, no dreams. Relaxing. What is it? I had that sleep state. How do I know? How do I know that I had a deep sleep state? So, whenever I say I was aware of my sleep or I was aware of the blankness, the meaning of the word I, there is Atma. Because the Anatma partners they were all resolved. There was nothing else in that state. Only Atma was there, which is ever present, which is Nityam. In fact, often we refer to Atma without knowing it is Atma that we are referring to. When you say I am aware, the meaning of the word I is Atma only. Aham iti yaha vijanati ayam Atma bhavati. Therefore, according to Vedanta, my real nature is non-changing consciousness. I, who am aware of the changing world, the changing body, the changing mind, changing emotion, changing knowledge, changing confusion, all of them I reveal by my mere presence. So this is the knowledge. Aham Atma Asmi. And I use the Anatma to say that. I use the Anatma to say Aham Atma Asmi, but I am not the Anatma. That is the teaching of this sloka. Okay. We'll continue in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Namaste, Guruji.
Very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Guruji. Namaskaram.
Thank you. Namaskaram.
Hari Om.
Thank you. Yes, Sitaramji.
Thank you. Hari Om.
What it means is we are in a permanent state of denial.
Not denial, ignorance.
Ignorance leading to denial.
Well, of course, I'm not sure because we don't deny the presence of Atma. We just don't know such a thing is there.
No, Atma we use. Atma dukta hai, Atma ye hota hai, Atma wo hota hai.
No, वो तो आत्मा का definition को what do you understand by Atma? Because many people actually use the word Atma for Sukshma Sharira.
Yeah.
So they have no idea what is Atma because the word Atma or Aham is a Sanskrit word. So the meaning of the word Aham or Atma in Sanskrit, if you translate in English, it is to I. That is the literal translation of whether Aham or Atma. I is the translation. But many people don't even know that much language. Oh, Atma chala gaya, all that, some of the thing, by unknowingly they say, because Atma has left the body, they say, no. Actually, what happens is, in one way, you can say Atma has left the body because the consciousness stops reflecting or in this body. So when the just like a filament in the bulb goes away, when the filament of the body goes away, the consciousness is not able to reflect in this body, so the body becomes dead. That does not mean consciousness is not present. It is present, but it is not able to reflect in that particular body. But for that, they say that Atma chala gaya hai and all that. I don't know whether they mean the Atma consciousness or they say soul, I mean, so many words they use. Ultimately, you don't know what is soul. You ask them, what do you mean by soul? They won't be able to tell you. Nobody will talk consciousness or chit. Nobody will talk. They will talk so many other things. And that is because of ignorance. And as you say, denial is coming out of that ignorance only. If you know the whole process, if you understand, as Adi Shankara has explained, that the whole thing is a combination or a mixture or a mixed double stream by which everything that we do, if you understand that, then you will understand there are two people or two entities involved as one team. Then you will understand that there is this consciousness principle also, without which I can't do anything. But consciousness again alone can't do anything because it doesn't have any form, it has got no parts, nothing. So it is this electricity example and all is a very nice example because fan on its own cannot run. Electricity on its own cannot give you air. When electricity combines with the fan, you get the air circulation happens there.
So, can I say that Atma needs Anatma to display or reflect?
Atma can be perceived or recognized
only through Anatma.
Only through Anatma. Without Anatma, you cannot perceive Atma. Similarly, Anatma also, without Atma, will be a inert thing. It's just like a log of wood. That's all. So it's a combination of both. And in that, what we are trying to do, once we are identifying ourselves with the Anatma, what happens is Anatma is subject to change, subject to problems, subject to difficulties, subject to health issues, subject to old age, everything. Anatma is subject to all these things. Once our strong identification with Anatma is there, because of our ignorance, what happens? We take everything to be my problem, my problem, my problem. We own up all the problems which actually doesn't belong to us as Atma. It belongs to the Anatma part of it. So that is the whole essence of the teaching, that you cannot physically segregate. If you physically segregate, means Anatma will become a dead body. So you have to cognitively segregate that there is this Anatma, there is this Atma, I am the Atma. All these changes, all these problems, all these difficulties do not belong to me. I am distancing myself from this Anatma. I treat this Anatma as a distant neighbor of mine. Whatever happens in his house, I am not concerned. So it is Anatma which is a victim of all your karmas. So whatever karma is delivering, it affects the Anatma, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. Atma doesn't get affected at all. So you change your party from Anatma to change your party to Atma, I am Atma. Then automatically you will distance yourself from all your problems and also. And that state is a state of Ananda. When you distance yourself from all these things, distance yourself or disidentify yourself from this Anatma, the body, mind, sense complex, that state is the state of happiness alone, joy alone, Ananda alone. That is why it says Sat Chit and Ananda is your true nature, is what? Existence, consciousness, and limitlessness. Limitlessness means joy. Because we feel unhappy only when we find ourselves limited. Limitlessness automatically gives you total joy, isn't it? So that is what the teaching is all about, rather. And Shastra repeats it again and again and again without being tired about it. One Upanishad after another Upanishad, 108 Upanishads that we know of, all of them contain only this one simple message. But it's not very easy to absorb by most of the people. That's the problem. And that's why you require consistent study and, then once you get the knowledge, you have to put that knowledge, assimilate that knowledge, live by that knowledge. All that is what will finally deliver what you call moksha purushartha.
Before Lataji comes on.
Huh?
Before Lataji comes on, one more question. So
Yeah.
Atma basically is nirguna. It reflects only through the Anatma.
Yes, only through Anatma. Only Atma cannot be known without Anatma. The presence of Atma is not only when Anatma is active. If
Active.
Atma is not active, we won't know presence of Atma, isn't it? So that is true. Yeah. Yes, Lataji.
Namaste, Guruji. Pranam.
Um,
Am I audible, Guruji?
yeah, very much.
Thank you. Yeah, very nice. Another thought-provoking session. It kind of just you, as you feel you have understood something, it seems to run away from you, and you start thinking again. So I have two questions, Guruji. One is Atma is everywhere and it's changeless.
Yes.
Right? And so when a person dies, what leaves the body is the Sukshma Sharira and the Karana Sharira.
Yes.
Right? So both Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira, they are Anatmas.
Yes.
So it's just the Anatma that leaves the body, and because Atma in its own form is there everywhere. So just the Anatma leaving the body makes the person dead, because is that what I have understood correctly?
Part of Anatma, because the Sula Sharira is also Anatma.
Tools is also is Anatma. I mean, that goes away.
There only, that doesn't leave go anywhere. It goes to the to the burning ghat.
Right. Yeah, that has to go to its destination, wherever, according to the religion, wherever. So it's just the Anatma leaving
But when
the
we say,
Anatma case.
when we say Sushma Shariram and Karana Shariram are leaving the body, leaving is an act.
Yeah.
Traveling, correct? That requires Atma to bless them for the travel.
Yes.
That is why Atma is all pervading. So
Atma is everywhere, yes.
Everywhere. So when that action happens, also Atma is blessing. That is why that leaving the body action takes place rather. It is only the Sukshma Shariram, Stula Shariram, where the filament has gone. So Atma is not able to enliven the Stula Shariram. Till now it was there enlivening. All the prarabdha karmas of the Stula Shariram were acting as the filament, like a filament in the bulb. So the electricity when passed, it was able to burn. When the prarabdha karmas finished, the filament broke. So even though electricity is there, it is unable to, burn the bulb or make it into a light. Rather, that's what happens.
Okay. Yeah. So that's like, I think that's what between you and Sitaramji were discussing. There's nothing like Atma leaving the body or anything when a person dies.
Atma, if you look at it, I had put one chart also.
Tattva Bodha.
In Tattva Bodha, sorry. What is exactly when we say Atma is the consciousness principle, it is not the original consciousness, it is the reflected consciousness.
Yes.
You remember the chart?
Yes.
RC1, RC2, RC3 and all that on chart.
Yes. Yes, Guruji.
So it's the reflected consciousness which is what is enlivening us.
And that leaves
the Stula Shariram dies, that reflection stops.
Right.
Original consciousness which is pervading all over is always there.
Yes.
So that is what is the process we have to understand.
Okay. Yeah. I think I think that bit I was kind of it had skipped my mind. It is a reflected consciousness which leaves the body.
Exactly. Dead body is when consciousness stops reflecting in that body, the body becomes dead. That's all. And so this Stula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram don't become dead. Stula Shariram will become dead at the time of Pranayam. Sukshma Shariram. Karana Shariram will continue until creation also, it will continue.
Until the self-realization. Thank you about that, Guruji. The other question is, I'm not sure whether I should, I'm right in asking this question. Now, once we have this knowledge that you are Atma and or Paramatma, and then that stops most of your miseries that makes your life much more joyful and all that. We have a lot of examples, various Maharshis and Rishis and saints and all that. But yeah, they are far away from us. Now, from your own life experience, Guruji, to how it has helped you and in any manner, only if you can share one or two examples, if I'm right in asking that.
No, certainly. I mean, it's a process. It's not
Yes.
that one event I can quote. Slowly, the more this knowledge sets into your mind and you become convinced about this. And I don't know whether it is a coincidence or whether it's a deliberate thing which is happening. All these emotional issues which we otherwise face, they automatically stop disappearing. I will tell you the very concrete example. Till last year, my children would call me probably, almost every day or every second day, some problem is there and all that. And I will get involved in trying to resolve the problem. Sometimes I will get angry. Why did you do that kind of a thing? So many things. But the last I would say about few months, 6 months, 8 months, I don't know, maybe from January this year onwards, the calls have stopped. Once in a while, I get a call from my daughter or my son. And that too, that will be very specific call. So in one way, I am now removed from all their personal problems in their life. They are trying to solve it themselves without my help. I am very, very peaceful about it. Otherwise, if somebody gives me a problem, for example, you ask a question for which I don't know the answer, you won't believe my nature is that I will keep on thinking what is the solution. It will go on disturbing my mind until I find the solution. And suppose I find the solution and convey it to my children and they don't listen to it, that will again disturb my mind. Right? I told them, they came to me with a problem. I told them solution, but they are not prepared to follow my solution. So this kind of a thing keeps on going. I'm talking practically what happens there, right? Now, for the last about 6-8 months, this process has become very, very, very smooth. When they have some issue, or actually they don't raise any issues with me at all. They just call up once in a week or something like that, or mostly on Saturdays or Sunday. How are you? What are you doing? Just to inquire about my wife is away in the US. I am alone here doing my own cooking, eating my food and things like that. And also they just call, pleasantries. What did you do? What did you eat today? What did you cook today? And all that much. And if they come out with something that, there is this issue, what do you think we should do? I will give them the advice. Otherwise, I don't ask them also, what are you doing? Why you are doing this and all? Nothing. Both of them are married. Both of them have got their families. It is their problem now. Now, I am slowly, I would probably say it is very, 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 a nascent stage where I'm actually starting to experience what this all means. When you are getting away from the emotional bondage which you have been involved all along, converted into more of a compassion of, like extending, okay, you love them, I mean, it's not that you are ignoring them. So this is happening. I mean, I would not say it has happened and things like that and all, but I am now convinced that more and more you apply this knowledge. Need not go away from the family, need not go away from the people, be within the people, but construct that boundary wall around you and do not allow their problems to become your problems. Do not allow their emotional issues to become your emotional issues. That is a very, very conscious attempt you have to make. And what
This is what we call asangatvam.
Asangatva, exactly. Asangatvam. So it happens both the ways. The more asanga you become, the more the knowledge sets in. More the knowledge sets in, the more asanga you become. So it works both ways rather. So personal experience, if you ask me, I am experiencing it. That much I can tell you, but it is not like rishis and
No.
I don't know what that state is. I have not reached there. But clearly, as they say, a trailer captures the essence of what a film is going to be. Right? So this is a trailer I am experiencing. And that also happens that when I am now talking to you people, I don't know whether you feel it or not. I personally am convinced about what I am telling you. It is not merely somewhere I have read, I am just conveying it to you.
No, Guruji, you come across very, very clearly what you delivered every session, whether it's Bhagavad Gita or Vivekachudamani. It's being delivered in a very convincing is probably another. It's got another connotation, I think, but it just goes straight to your heart and understanding, which is
that is what I feel is the real thing rather. So once once you are convinced, you can be able to you can talk to others and try to convince again. Vedanta is not about convincing anybody rather. Vedanta is presenting what I believe is right, presenting, and then you choose whether you want to take it or you don't take it rather. But then that when you speak that conviction, when you speak with that conviction, it makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
That is why, I personally, I would say I'm experiencing it. People around me may experience it, may not experience it. I don't know. In fact, it is like, I mean, you become a little uncomfortable when people are around. Not that you hate them or anything, but you are always sort of cautious, that if people are around some of their, it's just like, in Corona, you will avoid people, any contact with people because you feel that Corona will come to you, right? So,
shield is getting developed.
Mask and things like that and all.
Adjust with everyone.
Adjust with everyone. Actually, accept everyone. See, the problem in personal relationship comes when we don't accept people as they are. And because we don't accept, we have got a certain, especially with children and our spouse rather, we have a certain image that this person should be like this. And then we try to impose that on that person without understanding that that person is an individual of his own choices are there or her own choices are there. Throughout the life, we commit this mistake. Everybody, that's why the domestic, all this violence and fight take place. Because right from the day of marriage, each one is trying to change the other to their way of thinking. It is never going to happen. And you realize you have to become 70 years old to realize that that is a mirage you are chasing. Nobody is going, you cannot change anybody's character.
Yeah, each one has their own journey.
Everybody has got his own personality. You have got your own personality. What is the best way for you to live in peace? Accept everybody's personality and then try to adjust yourself with that period. The moment you change, you get into conflict situation. And this, if you know this is it, you can be there. But the other person does not know. The other person keeps on trying to change you. Okay. So that is also that battle also you will have to manage rather. In all these things you will have to manage when the other person says something or smile and go away. That's all. When think that, oh, this fellow is ignoring me or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It will not lead to a conflict, a fight or something. As I was saying, there is one cartoon I read. It was a very nice cartoon. One fellow asked, you are so cool always. You never pick up any fight with anybody. How is it? And this fellow says, what I do is, I will first state my view on a particular issue. If somebody comes to me, and if he says something to me which is not agreeable, I will state my view. But if that person starts arguing, I will tell you are right, and I walk away. So the other person says, oh, but that is not correct, I mean, it is what you believe in, right? You must stand for your beliefs and things like that. And how can you accept what the other fellow is saying is right and all that? And this fellow says, you are right. Always use this "you are right" principle. Anybody says anything which can lead to some conflict, if you sense you are right, it is not going to matter at all. Don't try to say, no, you are wrong, I am right. No, you are right. It doesn't mean surrender. It means securing yourself, bolting the door so that other things don't come into your mind. So that is the secret. I have learned that one cartoon. It was a joke actually, but that gave me a very big lesson.
Yes.
Very big lesson. Just tell everybody. Anybody trying to argue or contradict you, just tell him you are right. Absolutely, I agree. Walk away from there.
As long as you are not working.
Well, that is true. As long
When
as
we are working, we can't accept everything as you are right.
But while working also, if he happens to be your boss, then you say you are right. Most of the people do that and they get promotions and increments and bonuses.
Thank you very much, Guruji, for sharing your experience. That is very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Very beautiful. Thank you.